Al 1 de Mayo.
Hello and welcome to the Pick a Pop Podcast. I am your host, San Duzume Jr. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at the Sam D. That's TheeSamD. Subscribe and rate to the Pick a Pop Podcast 5 stars, nothing less. Tell a friend at Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Castbox, all major podcasting platforms. Search for the Pick N, no and, letter N, Pick and Pop Podcast. For all content, audio, and visual, go to thesamd.com. That's TheeSamD.com. Musical production done by May First Music. Support him at soundcloud.com/May1stmusic. Ten whole hours. 10 whole ass hours. And still no Bison Daily. I mean, how do you not give us Bison? I mean, you saw maybe 10 seconds max? 10 whole seconds max of the great Bison Daily. How do you not even give him a mention? How do you not have that storyline mixed in? We got an in-depth profile of Steve Kerr, but not 1 second of Bison Daily. Not 1 second of Craig Hodges. I mean, there's so many storylines that you could have really expounded upon for salacious reasons, like Bison Daily, or like real cultural specified, like the contrast of Hodges and Jordan. All right, look, let me not get in my bag. All right, so 10 whole hours, and there's 3 things that we didn't get. Bison Daily obviously is one of them, and y'all know how I give it up about Bison Daily. I may have to do my own doc about Bison Daily and why he was vital to that second championship of the second three-peat. But whatever. Didn't get Bison Daily. We also, I don't think, got a lie from Reggie? Is that... I'm kind of hedging my bet when I say that, but I think Reggie didn't lie. Now, is that because when they did this interview, when they did the sit-down interview with Reggie, is very important. Was it like Stockton? Was it during the Rona? Because Reggie's head might not have been in the right place to really give it up like he would have given it up if it was pre-Rona. Because Stockton's interview was during the Rona. So for me, it's very important to find out, when was Reggie interviewed? The Reggie we got wasn't really talking that talk like Reggie would. Like, it's... Reggie always talked real glowingly about Mike, but also found a way to shoehorn his way in there. And I guess he kind of did that with the whole thing of, you know, I still feel we were the better team, but they had championship DNA, which a lot of dudes do. Like, oh, we had the better team, but they just beat us. Like, all right, cool story, bro. But Reggie didn't give it up, man. Like, that was a little disappointing. The finale, I must say, as a former Bulls guy, as a basketball fanatic, as someone that grew up in real time as this stuff was going on and was cognizant of what was going on in real time, the finale had me a little meh. I mean, the Steve Kerr profile, I know, messed a lot of people up, but I knew that story. So that didn't hit with me. I mean, I know that I will get a lot of run. People like really will, you know, anything that involves grief and overcoming grief, we love to run that shit into the ground. So I know you're going to hear a lot about Steve Kerr and all of that. This just opened up a lot of people's eyes to Steve Kerr. It really did it to me because, I mean, again, as a basketball fanatic, I knew his backstory. So no Bison Daily. Reggie might not have lied, although we have to see when he was actually interviewed. And lastly, no mailman. Like at all. No sit-down interview for the man that faced Michael Jordan 2 straight times in the finals. No interview for the man that won an MVP that Jordan admitted gave him that extra motivation that he needed to beat his team. No interview for the man who was part of one of the greatest trash talking stories in the history of all you know what? Not just basketball, of all sports. With the mailman don't deliver on Sundays, which we'll get there. How they didn't have time. 10 hours. You had 2 hours to tell the story of 2 finals against the Jazz. And yes, carve out some time for that Pacers series. But yeah, 3 series to really carve out some time with 2 hours. And they couldn't find a way to get the mail don't get delivered. Oh, man. Yeah, we'll get there. That's why the finale to me was a little meh. Because I feel like those stories, the stories within the story, weren't really told. And you can't tell me you didn't have the time, because this whole shit was 10 hours. Like, you can't get that off. I can't let you get that off. So those are the things that stood out to me as the credits rolled. It was more of, oh, we're not getting that? Like, we're not getting the mailman? And there's reasons why, and I hinted at it at the last pod. I asked y'all to do some math when it comes to certain things if you really wanted to know pre the finale. But once the finale was airing, the timeline started to figure out some things about Karl Malone. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I was telling y'all. This is why I was telling y'all to go ahead and look up some things and do the math. That's the thing. I don't want to put stuff all the way out there because I like y'all to find out on your own. But yeah, Mailman he's not a complicated figure. He's a very simple figure, but bringing him on, and that's probably a decision by the producers, maybe even by the 4-letter network themselves or Netflix in conjunction, or hell, maybe even Mike, because to tell the Mailman story, as I said on the last pod, to tell the Mailman story, there's a lot there, and there's a lot there that's not good off the court. On the court, you could definitely give him his flowers about how great he was, deserving Hall of Famer. Although you can make a case, his career was predicated on a point guard in John Stockton. Because, I mean, when you think of Karl Malone, you think of Mailman, or you think of statutory rape. Or you think of, MVP, pick and roll with him and Stockton to Malone, that whole thing. But yeah, the whole rape thing, well, first let's be clear, statutory rape thing. Yeah, that's a thing. And there's more. Yeah, so we'll get there. I've been commandeered to give the whole Mailman story. And yeah, buckle up for that. But yeah, look who wasn't interviewed. In terms of people that he played in the finals, we got the Magic story, right? Magic wasn't afraid to sit down and give it up. No Clyde. That might have been Jordan's thing, because remember, Drexler's just a threat. There was no real respect there. Just, he's a threat. He could go off. He could do a thing. So maybe Jordan was like, yeah, you don't need to sit down with Clyde. We got Barkley, and Barkley and Jordan aren't even on speaking terms, and we still got Barkley. Then we got GP for the Sonics series, the Sonics finals. You could argue you would have liked to hear Kemp. But I mean, it's understandable because GP is such a mouthpiece, and he gave it up so crazy and gave us those quotables that led Mike to react the way that he did off seeing it on the iPad. That, I mean, yeah, like I can understand him saying, all right, but we got GP, we'll need Sean Kemp. Got that. But then those Jazz series, which you saw, were close. No Mailman? Because those series were about Stockton and Malone. 2 Hall of Famers. They both helped each other get to the Hall of Fame. Individually, I don't know if either one of them actually has the game to get to the Hall of Fame. But Stockton and Malone together, they both were so individually great at what they did that they helped each other get to the Hall of Fame. And Jordan had to go through both of them both times and beat them both in 6 games. But we only got to hear from Stockton, and that was during the Rona. No mention of the Mailman. So that was a thing. So no Bison Dele. Maybe Reggie didn't lie. And no Mailman. That's what were my immediate thoughts as the credits rolled. Also, they kind of tied the bow on the whole rebuild thing way softer than I would have. Because they went through the whole thing of what happened in the aftermath, right? Jordan gone, Pippen gone, Phil gone, Rodman released, Steve Kerr was traded. And then he said, and the Bulls went to rebuild. I thought at that point they were going to show how horrific the Bulls were during that quote rebuild. That Jerry Krause was so ready to do this rebuild. He was so ready to etch his name in stone as what Scottie strangely called the greatest GM in basketball history. I mean, I don't know what Scottie was on. Maybe he had the $1,800 tequila that Jordan had, or maybe he had like some Bad Dog 2020. I don't know what Scottie had to get that off. I mean, maybe because he got that $70 million contract at a sign and trade, maybe he felt like, all right, all is forgiven with Jerry Krause. But the fact that Jerry Krause fought so hard for this rebuild, plotting this next era of Bulls basketball, post-Phil, post-Scottie, post-Rodman and all these dudes, Kerr, all of them, Bushler, all of them. They were all ready to ship them all out because they were old, past their prime, not worth their value. You heard the talking points that Ryan Source gave you. It was generic talking points, but and some of those points may even had some merit. But still, if you have Jordan and you have Scottie and you have Phil, even if they find a way to corral Dennis for one more year, you saw that, there was a chance. But Krause was determined from years before to break it all down. And I keep going back to it, and it's a lifestyle philosophy. You got to go to Hove, and you got to go to Takeover. If sun don't shine, then sun don't shine. Jerry Krause was not shining. So because he was not shining, the sun could not shine for everyone else. It was always going to be a cloudy day until Jerry Krause got his shine. So he needed to start this rebuild. He needed to do this rebuild to prove that it was not just Michael. It was not just Michael and the Jordanaires. That organizations indeed did win championships. Not just teams, not just players, not just coaches. It was the front office people. And then the Bulls went out there and won 13 games the next year. I mean, what are we talking about? The Bulls were a laughingstock for about a good 15 years. There were little spurts there. The Ben Gordon Bulls had a quick little run. I mean, it got so bad. The Bulls got so bad that the NBA had to fix the lottery for them. Yes, I firmly believe. Look, the Bulls had the worst chance in that Derrick Rose lottery. They had the worst chance to get the number one pick. They had like they were the bottom of the barrel. They were 14th. They had like a point-something% chance or a 1-point-something% chance to be able to get the number one draft pick, to be able to go get Derrick Rose. And then magically the ping pong balls bounced their way. That was the only way to get them back to relevance, was to fix the lottery. So I think the documentary left that out on purpose to not kill Krause one more again, because Jordan did it so much. I mean, like repeatedly. So I think they wanted to give Jerry not some flowers on the way out, but just let's not acknowledge how bad the rebuild went. But I don't know how you could do that. I really don't. And Phil didn't really give it up like I thought he would. Well, I mean, we knew how Reinsdorf was going to protect his man, especially now that he's passed. But Phil, which was really the catalyst for breaking it down was because Krause and Phil wasn't rocking with each other. Like for a minute, Phil kept growing in status and stature and philosophy and all this stuff. And Krause would just keep thinking, I saved you. I saved you from the CBA. I brought you back from Puerto Rico. I made you. When you failed the first stint around, when you were an assistant coach, when you was dressing all crazy, I told you the next time, come back, I fixed you up, I cleaned you up. That relationship was the first domino to fall to start to crumble the dynasty. All right, let's go ahead and get to the shit. So, mailman. Karl Malone, no mailman interview. You got to go to 97. 97 finals, game 1. Score is tied. They showed Jordan hitting the jump shot to win game 1. He does the fist pump. And he talked about how he had scouted Byron Russell. And he knew think about his toes and he get him off his toes and he leans forward and his weight shifts. And like, no, that's real though. Like, that's real scouting. I don't know who else ever scouted Byron Russell to that extent. And maybe because he went and popped off a little bit, as they talked about in the doc, maybe he popped off a little bit. So Jordan said, when I come back to the league, or when he got back to the league, he decided when we face him, let's say he made the list, right? So like, I'm going to destroy him. So I'm sure Mike did really scout him like that. But besides all of that, which is it's a good subplot. Like, I'm not mad that they put that in there, but the fact that putting that in there meant we couldn't get Scotty telling the mailman when the game was tied, whispering into his ear, the mailman don't deliver on Sundays, and then the mailman going out there and bricking both free throws, which led to Jordan being able to come down and hit that game-winning shot. How do you not put that story in there? We know Scotty wasn't known for trash talking like that, right? Like, we saw him talking shit to Spike after he got that dunk off against the Knicks when he, basically put his nuts in Patrick Ewing's face. But being able to tell the mailman, this guy is known as the mailman, playing him in game 1 of the NBA Finals. It's his first NBA Finals. It's your 5th. The game is tied. It's under a minute left. He's at the free throw line. He has this real meticulous, like, free throw routine. If you ever seen the mailman's free throw routine, he's very meticulous. He has to bounce the ball a few times. He has to spin it in his hands. He gets his feet set. He kind of gets a little bounce with the feet set. And then he mumbles something. I've always wanted to know, what the hell was he? Like, that would have been one of my questions if they would have sat him down. I mean, after the rape stuff and then the other, after all of that, what was that free throw routine, though? What were you saying? Because it looked like he was saying, like, some long statement. All this, he took forever at the free throw line. What Patrick Ewing was to Sweat in terms of eating up time at the free throw line, and dudes always had to come out there and wipe it down the free throw line in between free throws with Patrick, that's how much time Malone would take up just in mumbling to himself before he took any free throws. So Mailman's got this locked-in routine, and he's getting into it, about to do it, and then Scotty kind of like brazenly runs up on him a little bit. Mailman don't deliver on Sundays. That's a bar. That's a bar. And then Malone goes out there and bricks the first one. Scotty goes back up to him. Mumbles something else in his ear. Now, Scotty's never revealed what he said that second time, but it probably was a confirmation of, I told you Mailman don't deliver on Sundays. And then he bricks the second one. I mean, that's an epic story that was left out. I don't know how that doesn't, because you don't get that shot with Jordan winning game 1 against the Jazz without that. So that's the first instance of Mailman. I'm like, wait, they're not going to do that? All right, fine. Yeah, the Jazz really did score 54 points in a whole ass game, dog. 54 points in a whole ass game, and you see it now. And with this doc, right? Like, Ron Harper, again, we got a full profile of Steve Kerr. No disrespect to him. But, I mean, I knew that story, so I was good on that. I could have done with less of that. Not saying don't put it in, but I could have done with less of that. But I understand the arc they were trying to do with the Paxson, which then led to Kerr, and, how they're similar. I get all of that, right? And then the father thing, which is obviously something he could pull the heartstrings with and coincide with I get all of that. But Ron Harper's story, that's another story that I think goes I don't know after this 10 hours if people fully understand how good Ron Harper was for that Bulls team. And they damn sure don't know how good he was before he was a Bull. Like Cavalier Clipper, like I've kind of mentioned like how crazy he was, but I think they could have gave us something there. Again, 10 whole ass hours, bruh. And we didn't get, I still don't think, even though they tried to give him a little love in that 54-point game, I don't think, I really don't think that was enough. Okay, so let's get into the shits with the mailman. All right, y'all want the rate first? Statutory rape? You want the statutory rape first? Or you want what happened even before the rape? Or do you want what happened with him, Kobe, and Vanessa, and the reason why he was damn sure not going to pull up to the Kobe Memorial? Let's go with the timeline first discovered. So the timeline discovered the statutory rape during the last episode. And yes, that was a thing that happened. Statutory rape. He was 20 years old. He was a sophomore at Louisiana Tech. And he fathered a child with a 13-year-old girl. Let me run that back. Karl Malone was 20 years old as a sophomore at Louisiana Tech, and he impregnated a 13-year-old girl. They had a son. That son went on to the NFL. He got drafted. I think it was a 7th-round pick or something. He didn't last that long. He played a couple years in the league. But that's the only reason why it became public was because the dude got drafted and people asked about his mom, and he said, yeah, Karl Malone is my father, but he was never really around, so I don't really acknowledge him as a father. He's more like a sperm donor. Like, the son kind of went in on Mailman as people found out or asked about his past, and he was like very forthcoming. So props to him to be able to just give that up like that. But yeah, Mailman fathered a child with a child at the age of 20. He was not brought up on statutory rape charges because the family figured, well, this dude's a basketball star in college. Most likely he's going to be a star of some sorts in the league. We'll let him rock as long as he vows to take care of us. And allegedly, there was some sort of agreement. I doubt it was on paper, but there was some sort of agreement that, okay, if you let me skate on statutory rape, we'll take care of it. Now, normally that means abortion, but in this case it meant, nah, I'm going to hold you down financially. I'm not staying, but I'm going to hold you down financially if you let me skate. So Karl Malone skates. No statutory rape charges were ever filed. He gets to the league, and I believe by his second year in the league, they brought him up on charges in regards to they wanted child support. And Karl Malone was refusing child support for this child that he had with a child. Right. So, and I think they only wanted like $200. And Malone was like, nah, that's too much money. Now, look, feel how you feel, right? Karl Malone is in his second year in the league. He skated on statutory rape charges because he said, look, I'm going to go to the league, or maybe the family thought, look, he's going to go to the league, so he's going to do the right thing, even though he may not stay with her or the child. He's going to do the right thing and take care of us, at least financially. Second year in the league, by then, no bread had been given at all. Malone's like, nah, I'm good, love, and joy. Have a nice life. Did not acknowledge the child at all. Did not publicly claim, I think to this day, still has not publicly claimed the child at all. So that's that, right? So that off rip. Now you're starting to see why maybe having Karl Malone in the sit down, because how do you explain that? I think you can easily tell the Karl Malone story without that, especially if it's a Karl Malone controlled doc, like how The Last Dance was a Michael Jordan controlled doc. But you can't tell the story of Karl Malone and the player he was off the court, which gets worse. You can't tell that story without the fact that he, as a 20-year-old, impregnated a 13-year-old and then publicly denied, and I'm assuming privately denied, fathering this child. So that's the first one. But here's the thing. Before that, he did more shit. And I'm laughing at the ludicrousness of all of it. And shout out to Luda for destroying Nelly as I thought he would in the versus battle. But anyway, yeah, so Mailman fathered twins while in high school. Now that woman, the woman he had the twins with, was his girlfriend at the time. But that happened when he was in high school. I believe he was 17. So by the time he's 20, at Louisiana Tech. Karl Malone had 3 kids, and he was denying all 3. He had fraternal twins in high school, and then had a child with a child while in college. And the twins, like, he would see them around the way and just not acknowledge them. There's stories of Malone holding it down, I believe at a grocery store that his stepfather or something owned or ran or whatever. And the twins would come through with the mother. And he would do anything in his power to avoid them. Avoid eye contact, avoid speaking to them, all of that. Now, the daughter in the fraternal twins, he had 1 boy, 1 girl. She went on to play for the WNBA. And I believe the son played ball in college. He didn't make the league, but he played ball in college. When they started to blow up nationally for being known for being like basketball players, that's when Karl came sniffing around. In true deadbeat dad fashion, here comes Karl, trying to see what's good. Oh, these two gonna make it to the league, maybe? Let me see if I could get some run. Let me see if I could get some burn. Let me see if I could get some of that NBA money or WNBA money. And the daughter and him have a relationship. And the son and him, I think, have a relationship of sorts. He's definitely closer, it seems, publicly anyway, with the daughter that made it to the WNBA. I mean, Cheryl Ford, that's who the daughter is. Cheryl Ford, she won chips. I think she got 3 chips. She's a all-star in the W. Like, she was nice. I don't think she's not still playing anymore, but she's nice. Yeah, so by the age of 20, Mailman had fathered 3 children, and if you would have asked Karl Malone about those children while he was playing with Utah, he would have denied that he had 3 children, from Louisiana anyway. I believe with his wife, he had more children that like he built a family with, but he denied all 3 that he had down in Louisiana. And then we got to get to Kobe. Now, Kobe and Vanessa. Now, this is when Karl Malone was a Laker. He finished out his career as a Laker. He was on the squad with Kobe, Shaq, GP, and Karl Malone. That was like a big 4. That was a super team. An old super team, like a weird super team, but it was a super team just off the names. Malone. I mean, that's 4 Hall of Famers. 4 Hall of Famers in the starting lineup. And they got to the NBA Finals, but lost to a Detroit team that had no Hall of Famers. I mean, I'm not putting Chauncey Billups in. You can if you want, but he's not in my Hall of Fame. But so a team with 4 Hall of Famers, 4 Immortals, lost to a team that had no Hall of Famers whatsoever. But during that tenure, during that run, Malone and Kobe were allegedly boys. They hung out, and that's a rare statement, right? Just think of that statement. Karl Malone and Kobe were boys. Now, this is peak Kobe Shaq beef. Peak. He's got no real friends on the team. Keeps to himself. He's a loner. And the man he decides to push up on and kind of be buddy-buddy with is Karl Malone? Of all people? Who is not known to be like a friendly dude, a compadre. No one really gave it up for Karl Malone off the court. Gave it up to him by the skills on the court, but off the court, Malone moved differently. This was a backwoods country. He was a black redneck, for lack of a better term. He was a black redneck in every sense of the word. Whatever you want to put connotations on as a redneck and how they move, that's how Karl Malone moved. So that dude and Kobe became boys? So much so that the wives became good friends? And then Malone went Malone. Mailman went mailman. Long story short, there was a conversation had between Vanessa and Karl Malone's wife that led to Malone's wife giving Malone's number to Vanessa. So make sure y'all got caught up. So Malone's wife and Vanessa are on the phone. Malone's wife gives Vanessa Malone's number. Vanessa hits up Mailman to ask Mailman to bring his son over to sit with Vanessa because they were all cool and they was all squad. So, have him come over and chill with us during the game and da-da-da-da. Malone starts to have a kind of a weird conversation with Vanessa on the phone. According to Vanessa, a weird conversation on the phone with Vanessa once he has her on the phone. So much so that Vanessa decides to go get Malone's son and bring him over to where they were at. And in that moment, Vanessa tries to make small talk, tries to look past the weird, awkward, quasi shooting his shot conversation that they just had on the phone, tries to push through, tries to power through that. Still, her end game is, we just want to make sure your son is rocking with us and having a good time, and we all gang, we all squad. Vanessa approaches Karl, and Karl, like a black redneck, is decked out in cowboy shit. Tight ass Wranglers, spurs probably on his cowboy boots, a hat, the boot or whatever. So she makes a comment about his outfit like, "Oh, what are you hunting, cowboy?" Or, "Hey, cowboy, what are you hunting?" Just whatever. She makes a comment about the outfit and how he looks like a cowboy and what are you hunting? And Malone was known as a big hunting guy, very pro hunting. So she says this a couple of times. And Malone tells Malone looks Kobe Bryant's wife in the face. He tells Vanessa Bryant, "I'm hunting for little Mexican girls." What the fuck, man? How you gonna tell Kobe's wife? Look, man, that's some sick shit. That's some real savage. I don't know if that's I mean, can we put savage and demon time together? I don't know what type of shit that shit was, but telling Kobe Bryant's wife that you're hunting for little Mexican girls to her face in front of your own kid is nuts. It's just fucking insane. So, yeah. That's why Karl Malone was not at the Kobe Bryant Memorial with all the former Lakers there, former teammates, former Lumen. That's exhibit A through Z of why Karl Malone was not at the Kobe Bryant Memorial. No one has tried to hit up Karl Malone to talk about Kobe. Everyone is steering clear of the mailman. And Kobe did approach him. Kobe did run up on Malone on the phone, because Vanessa allegedly, this is all alleged. Look, we weren't there, right? I wasn't there, but this is what I've read. This is what's been told to me in privacy through people in the back channel. Look, this Kobe called Malone, pressed him on it. Mailman did not deny it, like at all. He was more like, his energy was kind of like, I mean, you know how I give it up. Like, you know how I gets down. You put your badass wife around me and you not there, I'm shooting the shot. She hit me up. Like, she got my number and starts to hit me up. Like, yeah, I'm shooting the shot. Because, again, this is the same man that knocked up a 13-year-old. So his fucks been at zero. So, I mean, yes. But, yeah, that obviously fractured the relationship. The families weren't tight anymore. The wives didn't hang out anymore. And yeah, that was another subplot to that whole Laker run. That was a real last dance. And Phil talks a good amount about it in the last season, his book about his last run with the Lakers and those 4 Hall of Famers on one squad. He definitely mentions it in the book. He definitely doesn't go into detail about it, but he definitely talks about how that really affected the team because Kobe and Shaq obviously had their thing going on, but they knew that was coming to an end. But now even his mans, or someone that he thought was his mans, in the mailman, pressing Vanessa like that, that really made him look at everyone on the team and be like, yo, I don't trust any of y'all. I don't rocks with any of y'all. So yes, there you go with the mailman. You have the statutory rape that was never reported for him laying up and impregnating a 13-year-old as a 20-year-old in college. You have the twins that he fathered even before that as a 17-year-old, having twins and denying them. And then you have him telling Kobe Bryant's wife, I'm hunting for little Mexican girls. That is Utah's king. Okay, it's hard to transition off of that. But yeah, so flu game. So they let Jordan get a lie off again. And even the director tried to like even double down on the bet in the little post-show recap that they've done every episode. Yo, Jordan flu game, obviously he never had the flu. Jordan saying he basically ate a bad pizza. Blaming food poisoning. Like, food poisoning is a real thing. I've never had it. I have thought I have had it a couple times, but I wasn't in the type of pain that he's described, that other people that I know who have actually had food poisoning have described. I never had that. So, just like Scotty with the migraine, I can't tell you what it is to play through a migraine. I can't tell you what it is to play through food poisoning. But I tell you this, the way he looked out there on that court, the way that he talked about how he felt, it didn't match with the people who told me what it was to deal with food poisoning. I mean, look, the director said that the reason why the pizza story had to be true is that multiple people have confirmed to him. Now, this is all his spin. That when Mike got that pizza, that the other people in the room, he told them no one eats this pizza. And it's because they were supposed to go out for dinner, but Mike got left out there and had no food and was starving. The plane got in late or whatever. So they got to Utah. They got to the hotel. All of his squad, his inner circle, had already ate. And Mike was like, y'all went and had dinner without me. Y'all didn't wait for me. Y'all didn't even get me something, to hold me down when I pull up. Like, I order me a pizza and y'all ain't touching this pizza. Now, that sounds plausible, right? To a certain extent, that sounds plausible. So then the pizza comes. 5 dudes come with it. Pizza comes through. Pizza comes into the room. No one else touches the pizza. And why does no one touch the pizza? Because allegedly, Mike spit on the pizza. Mike spit on the pizza and was like, yeah, none of y'all touch this pizza. Allegedly, that's how Mike gave it up. Now, how you spit on a pizza and then get food poisoning from eating that whole pizza, again, it just doesn't, look, you talk to enough players, you talk to enough people behind the scenes. I have never heard that from anyone that has been in the league. Now, of course, there's urban legends. People make stuff up, myths and all that all the time. Conspiracy theories, whatever. But I've heard from enough people that would either know that inner circle or have been around the inner circle that wasn't no goddamn food poisoning. that it was a anything is possible moment. Gone off that yak. Gone off. MJ allegedly was gone off that yak. And ain't nothing wrong with that. But again, this is the same man who has been protecting his image off rip. So ain't no way in the year 2020, after finally breaking down and giving us this doc after sitting on the footage for a couple of decades, there's no way that he's going to give it up and say, yeah, I was just going off that yak. I was just going off that yak when I touched down in Salt Lake City, because how else are you supposed to be when you know you got to spend extended time in a place like Salt Lake City? So from what I've heard, MJ was going off that yak. But, if he wants to get it off, there was food poisoning. Look, bruh, in my heaviest days, I could eat a whole pie. I've ate whole pies a couple times. I ain't never had I ain't never felt the way MJ felt after eating the whole pie. Like that's some real shit. Like I've never, but again, food poisoning, right? But food poisoning has people like feeling debilitated, like they're gonna die. And again, this is the whole Jordan, the mythologizing of Jordan, right? Scotty barely played through a migraine, couldn't do it. This dude in 97 is playing with flu-like, allegedly, or food poisoning, allegedly, symptoms. It went out there and still gave Utah buckets all night. That's where the mythologizing of Jordan just goes beyond, right? Because it's like, first we heard the flu. They told us the flu. It's the flu. That's crazy in itself, right? And then the way he looked, the way he was slumped on the bench and the ice pack on his neck and the shit droops down. Yeah, like it fit the part. Then you start to hear, well, I don't know if it was the flu, son. It might have been something else. Like, oh, word? And what you've seen from Utah, if you weren't a fan of basketball then, or if you were too young in 97, you've seen how the Utah fans have given it up to black players. Within this last 5 years, you've seen the wars that Russie has had with the Utah fan base. So you could conceivably see, yeah, I could see them fucking with Mike's food. Because of how crazy they try to get at Russell Westbrook. How they try to give it up to Russie all the time. So it's plausible to be like, yeah, I could see them trying to poison the dude's food. I mean, that's one of the tactics that dudes do, right? It's either they fuck with your food, they make sure the fire alarm is pulled at various times in your hotel rooms. You send shorties to the room to, make sure dudes are worn out by the next day when they're supposed to play a game. Like, there's all these little tactics that people can do. But was Jordan a victim of food poisoning, or was Jordan just gone off that yak? I mean, I'm just glad we no longer have to say flu game, because the flu game, I just was like, yeah, I know it's not the flu, dog. I just know it's not the flu. But yeah, it was rumored for years that he was hungover, just gone off that yak. When it was going off that yak, it definitely wasn't food poisoning, and I'm definitely not buying the story that you just ate too much pizza. So, I mean, take whichever excuse you want to believe and just run with it. Treat it like Reggie and just believe the lie. So we got another Jordan meme. And it's because thanks to Jerry Reinsdorf trying to get the line off that Jerry Krause believed he could tear it all down and with Jordan have the Bulls back in contention for a championship within a couple of years. And Mike's face was classic. He was like, this dude said, what? He really got that off? Like, yeah, it was a classic moment. Yeah, that Krause couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. He couldn't live with the fact that he was never going to be that dude. He wasn't going to be held in high regard. He wasn't going to be held, to that Red Auerbach, the orchestrator, the creator of a dynasty. He was going to be held to that. He was going to be held to the high regard, like how we hold the logo Jerry West, who built the Lake Show multiple times. Like, when it's not going to be held, and now built the Clippers. He's not going to be held as one of those dudes. He's not going to be propped up as one of those dudes. So, yeah, there was no way that the Bulls could have been built or rebuilt around just Jordan in 99 and going forward, and they get another championship. There was no way. And if you look at the trades, and here's the thing, right? And this is, again, how I think Krause gets off light. And I understand how you don't want to kick a man that's dead, like actually physically dead. But if you really want to get it off, you really got to tell the whole truth. So as the rebuild began and they start to just basically like sell off all their assets. So let's start with Scottie. Well, for Scottie, they did a sign and trade with the Houston Rockets. He was able to get his bag on the way out as he left Chicago, 70-something million, 74, 76 million or something like that. For Scottie Pippen, the Bulls got Roy Rogers and a second-round pick that became Jake Voskuhl. This is the rebuild, okay? So this is Jerry Krause, who now has a chance to get the shine. Sun can shine now. For Scottie Pippen and the sign and trade, they got Roy Rogers, not Rodney Rogers, Roy Rogers, and a second-round pick that eventually became Jake Voskuhl. They did a sign and trade with Steve Kerr. For Steve Kerr, the Bulls got Chuck Person, the rifleman, who was waived, didn't even keep him, and another second-round pick, I believe. It was second round or low first round. It was a pick. Whatever the pick was, they used that pick that became, now I'm going to try to pronounce his name. I don't even know if this dude even came to the U.S., but it was another foreign player, which we know was Krause's specialty because he hit on one. He kept trying to hit on others, but he only hit on Kukoc. Dalibor Bogaric. Right. And they sent Luke Longley. Luke Longley got a bag from the Suns, so they did another sign and trade. In that sign and trade, back from Phoenix, the Bulls got Mark Bryant, who was a solid big man. But I mean, did he even play for that? I don't even know if he even made the roster for the Bulls that year because he wanted to be so bad to tank and get picks. Mark Bryant, Martin Murasep, who was waived, Bubba Wells, who was a good player, but he was waived, and a pick that eventually, so this is a first-round pick, and a pick that eventually became Ron Artest. So for Scottie Pippen, Steve Kerr, and Luke Longley, you gave up those three vital pieces. I mean, Scottie's the ultimate vital piece, right? But even Kerr, to a certain extent, and Luke Longley was a big man. He was solid, was starting center. All you got for it was a first-round pick that turned into Ron Artest, and that was a like not a high pick. Ron Artest was like a 13th pick, 12th, 13th pick, somewhere around there. Definitely not I don't think it was a top 10 pick. Somewhere in that teens, early teen pick. I mean, again, organizations win championships, right? So you wanted to have the shine. You wanted to show everyone, Jordan included, that you could do it. And you decided to break it all down and get rid of Scottie Pippen, a top 50 player of all time at the time. Steve Kerr, clutch player. Luke Longley, vital starter. And all you got for it was Jake Voskuhl and a pick that turned into Ron Artest, who was also anything is possible, who was also gone off that yak even during halftime. So, I mean, look, Krause had a chance. They want to talk about that rebuild. He wanted that rebuild so bad. And that's what he was able to do with three vital starters. That's how the rebrand, the rebuild kicked off. Sign and trade, sign and trade, sign and trade. Pippen, Kerr, Longley, and you got Basura for it. I will say this, though, about Scottie. Scottie and that back, I identified heavily with that bad back. That was something where the back seizing up basically happened to me in high school. So around the same time Scottie had his bad back, I was just coming off rehab for my bad back. I threw out my back during track and field, my senior year in high school. Threw out my back seized up, all of that. And how Scottie played basketball, I have no idea. Because I could barely move when my back seized up the way that Scottie's did. I was like damn near bedridden. Like I was like all fucked up, all jacked up. And here's Scottie out here playing in the finals, getting buckets, gingerly jogging up and down the court. And that's, yeah, I was like, I identified with that walk. How they showed him running, like, yep, that was me. That was me just trying to get to the dollar van, me trying to get to the bus. I can't imagine having to do that at the highest competitive level of basketball. Insane, bruh. Insane. Like, to this day, I still make sure to stretch my back. Like, I'm very wary of throwing my back out again or seizing my back up. Like, I was heavy into the yoga for a minute. Like, I was doing anything to make sure, like, my back never goes back into that state again, because I never want to feel that pain again. So I identified a lot with Scottie Pippen and that bad back and trying to play through it and how much pain he looked to be in and how they had to like really try to manage his minutes. Like, yeah, that was, I identified heavily with that. Them potentially winning a seventh chip, I don't know. I don't know if that happens. I think they would have. You got to remember, there was a lockout that next season. They only played 50 games. They didn't start the season until like January. So it wasn't imagine if Krause didn't trick off the bag so early by telling Phil, I don't care if you go 82-0, you're not coming back. Let's imagine Krause would have just played the role and say, we'll play it. We'll go each year. We'll check in with each other to see how we feel about this. And when we both agree it's a wrap, it's a wrap. If he goes into it with that mindset, the Bulls get that sixth championship. At the end of that championship, they say, all right, let's try one more. Then the lockout happens. Dudes don't play until January. So now, even though their whole argument for why they got to break up the team is that these guys are old, their bodies are beaten up, and they're going to be overpaid because they're going to underperform on their market value. They didn't want to bring these guys back, right? Because they were worried about the wear and tear their bodies were under. There's a little snippet that's been released of a memoir that Krause, was working on, and he basically broke it down how all the medical staff, the doctors and all that stuff said these guys' bodies are beat up. They're beat up, they're wearing down, they're at the end of their physical prowess. They're at the end of their physical run. And while that may have been accurate, because Scottie was old by the time he got to Houston, and by the time he got to Portland, he was even older. Rodman was getting old. Jordan even himself was getting old. Kerr, Longley, Bushler, all these dudes were not young. So I can't dispute that. I can't fight that. That's not a trash narrative. What is a trash narrative, though, is that if the lockout was going to take place and you would have given all those guys who were used to the grind of only having 2 months off, if that, in between before you got to start getting your body back into shape for training camp around September into October when the season starts, if you're telling them, yo, take all the time off you need because we're not coming back until January, and it's only 50 games? Yes, I think the Bulls could have got that seventh chip. You're giving Jordan all that time off to rest? Like Mike said, you would have had to done some convincing to make sure Scottie's back in the fold, but you go grab Dennis, you pull him out of whatever, brothel or strip club or, apartment with blacked out curtains he's in, and be like, yo, 1 more year. 50 games. We're going to go hard from January on. I think the worm is locked in. I think he's ready for that. I think you could bring back your Kerrs, your Bushlers to kind of fill in ancillary parts. Hell, they might even have kept Luke Longley, even though they were very down on Longley's production. I think they could have gotten that seventh chip. Because you look at the squad they would have had to face. They would have had to face the Spurs. And, as much as you want to say, well, yeah, young Tim Duncan would have destroyed. I mean, maybe. And David Robinson was not. David Robinson was old. That was last year, right? Or next to last year, if anything. So you have an old David Robinson who Jordan had already, Jordan was already in his head. I mean, Admiral was still trying to get Hakeem out of his head. So, I mean, Jordan would have just been another dude to just, bring that up. Imagine the trash talking that Jordan would have gave up to the Admiral. And then Tim Duncan, youngin, let Rodman get into his head. I mean, that could have been interesting. And the narrative of, they never had to go through bigs. Like, dog, they had to go through Patrick, Zoe, Shaq to get to the finals. Rick Smits, we saw them go through another team in the Pacers that had an established, had multiple big men, like the Davis boys and Rick Smits and Derek McKee. I mean, that Pacers team was huge, dog, in terms of size. Like the length, like Mark Jackson was the shortest dude in the court. He's 6'3". They were very similar to the Bulls in how they were built with length. You look at the Bulls, that second three-peat especially, you had Ron Harper, Jordan, Pippen. That's a lot of wings. That's all wingspan right there, dog. Then you got Rodman. Even though he's not tall for a power forward, he's still 6'7", 6'8". And then you had your generic bigs, like a Bill Wennington, a Luke Longley, Bison Dele for a year, Robert Parrish, Joe Klein. Like, you had dudes. Oh, great stat they showed. Jordan has eliminated 20 Hall of Famers from the playoffs. But, plumbers. I did love the little tidbits. I didn't see those tidbits. Those tidbits were post-production. Because all the leak stuff that I saw, episodes 1 through 8, all the leak stuff was like way underproduced. Like, there was no production value. It had the ESPN watermark all over it. Like, yeah, it was a very stripped down version of what y'all saw. So I actually saw 9 and 10 like y'all did. And I was like, oh, the little pre-production packages are cool. And yes, that is a good nugget. Michael Jordan has eliminated 20 Hall of Famers. But, plumbers. No Juanita. We only got a minute, an actual 1 minute. So again, 10 hours, 1 minute of his children. Not 1 second of Juanita. She is showed for 2 or 3 seconds in a clip. I saw Juanita in a clip, but not 1 second of airtime for Juanita. Yeah, maybe that story. Is today the day? I don't know if today's the day. I don't think today's the day. I already gave y'all Mailman. I can't give y'all Mailman and Juanita. Maybe next week's pod. Because I need a lot of time to stretch that out. I mean, I always tell y'all Google is your friend, but if you want to wait, next week we'll get into Jordan and Juanita, because what the hell else we got to talk about? Know what I mean? So I gave you the full Mailman, though. You got to give it up that I gave you the full Mailman. But yeah, Juanita, we'll save that for next week. And before I get out of here, we have to talk about Rodman and the NWO. It's something that was a huge moment for me, especially because at that time I was heavy into WCW, heavy into the NWO. Hollywood Hogan was talking that shit. It was a really good moment. Loved Razor Ramon, so him, going by his real name of Scott Hall and running up with Kevin Nash as the Outsiders into WCW and, bringing that energy, bringing that rebel shit. They were basically the bad boys of wrestling, that dipped from WWF, or, yeah, it wasn't E yet. It was still WWF, and running over to WCW, their main competition, and basically acting like it was a takeover. That was some real fly shit, and he had some real fly storylines, and bringing in Rodman, that was perfect. It was like the bad boy of wrestling with the bad boy of the NBA. And I did a video, a Hoops Kickback, on the Trash Narrative on the Sam D YouTube channel. Yeah, I think I'm going to go back and rewatch some of these classic games that they talked about in the finale of The Last Dance here. But yeah, bringing in Rodman and Hogan, and to the point where Rodman leaves during the finals, gets fined $20K. Gets fined $20K for leaving. Not leaving the game, just missing practice. Gets fined $20K. He made $250,000 though off the WCW appearance. So Rodman finds a way to stay winning, bruh. Can you imagine? You remember when the Giants fans were up in arms because Odell and them went down on their day off and they were shirtless on the boat wearing Timbs. Look at the fervor that they had in killing the Giants and Odell. Odell will never live that down to some Giants fans. Fucking Rodman is out with wrestlers during the finals. And the Bulls were like, all right, Dennis being Dennis. Basketball people understand personnel way better. And just personalities, not just personnel. Basketball people understand personalities way better than the NFL or football in general ever will. It's a different mentality. There's a lot there to it. I won't go into that today. In that mindset of why football people feel the way that they do about athletes and how they view them as really. But that's another topic for another day. You know what it is. Last Dance recap, the final one. We get back to some normalcy. I'm going to try and pod weekly if there's stuff to talk about. If not, I will let y'all know. Hit up the YouTube channel. Really trying to go hard with that. If you haven't already, subscribe. Get your peoples to subscribe. Let's build that base up. I'm putting out content as much as I can, whether it's audio-wise with the podcast or video-wise on the YouTube channel. So TheSamD on YouTube, thesamd.com to find everything. I appreciate y'all a lot. Appreciate the retweets and on the Instagram, hitting me up there and reposting that. I appreciate all of that. Pick up our podcast, TheSamD. I'm out.